The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 began the expansion of the United States west to the Pacific Ocean and south to Mexico. This country was unsettled, wild, and magnificent, not unlike the people who migrated to it in order to tame it. Under the Missouri Compromise, Missouri became a state in 1820. 15 counties were formed at that time, and additional counties would be formed over the next 20 years. The 57th county to be organized within the state was Macon County, achieving the status officially in 1837. Soon the county was subdivided into townships, 24 in total. Two of these townships, Walnut Creek and Easley, are pivotal to our story because the small village of Elmer was to be formed on the border joining them many years later. The geography in those townships varied. To the east and south of what was to become Elmer lay rolling hills with vast areas of dense forests. These wooded forests would be vital to the rising civilization of the area. Further to the east and north were vast prairies with gently rolling hills, ideal for the development of self-sustaining farms, growing crops, and maintaining livestock for independent survival. Throughout both townships flowed the Sheraton River, casually meandering through what became known as the Sheraton River Valley. Constant flooding of the river left fertile silt, which made the valley extremely useful for growing crops. The possibility of acquiring land through federal land grants and the fertile soils brought hardworking opportunity seekers to the area quickly, and soon the landscape was dotted with small farms. Small country stores in a settlement called Mercyville, established as early as 1853, provided goods and services that were not easily available for the farmers. Things were to change, though, in 1887 when the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway Company constructed a rail line connecting Chicago and Kansas City that passed directly through Easley and Walnut Creek townships. Santa Fe provided crossings periodically along the line to allow local residents easy passage across the rails. One such crossing was to become the catalyst for the creation of the town of Elmer. A small depot was built there, and the area was soon a bustling center of activity. The Santa Fe Town and Land Company filed a 27-block plat for Elmer, Missouri on May 20, 1888. The first lot was sold to S.L. Gash 2 months later for a cost of $1. And so begins the rapid development of this new center of activity surrounding the new depot. The Santa Fe Company called this location Biddle Station, and the founders of the new town originally followed suit in naming their town. Soon they realized there was another town in Missouri named Biddle and changed their community's name to Elmer. Businesses were established quickly, some moving from the settlement of Mercyville, and the new village prospered. The Santa Fe scheduled regular stops there, providing the citizens with convenient transportation to other cities and providing farmers with economic means of moving their livestock and grains to remote markets, mostly Kansas City and Chicago. Coal was also abundant in this region, so much so that farmers could manually dig for coal on their property for heating their homes. One mining company leased 5,000 acres of land near Elmer with the expectation of beginning major mining operations there. The move, which never came to fruition, would have brought 1,000 new citizens to the town. In spite of that unrealized hope for a major company headquartered in Elmer, the population grew rapidly, exceeding 500 citizens by 1920. Some entrepreneurs became prominent citizens and helped guide the growth of the town. James Drake was one of the founding fathers, and with his son, C.O. Drake, established one of the original mercantile businesses called the Little Store. The business grew and maintained a presence in Elmer until around 1980. Adjacent to the Little Store was a poultry house, also owned and operated by Mr. Drake. Other established mercantile businesses owned by Emmett Dale and T.L. Freed also moved their firms from Mercyville to Elmer. Tom W. McDavid and J.W. Gunnels also operated stores offering mercantile and hardware. J.C. Patterson, a man of some means living in Mercyville and current justice of the peace, also recognized the opportunity Elmer offered. He moved there and, along with Mr. Dale and Mr. Reed, was instrumental in erecting a number of buildings to house the growing proliferation of businesses. As one would expect, numerous establishments came into being to support the surrounding farm community. Much of the burden early in the century was handled by horses, dictating the requirement of harness shops and livery stables. Several harness shops were to be located in Elmer, including one operated by L. W. Perry and another operated by Paul Bailey. A grist mill was needed to grind grain for livestock feed and for shipping to distant markets. W.M. Agee and Luke Atterbury joined forces to harvest, cut, and cure trees for sale in their lumber yard. The business changed ownership several times but remained in business until the 1950s. Another business found in most towns at this time was a creamery. The Elmer Creamery was established early in the town's history and processed and shipped thousands of gallons of cream to markets afar. William Griffin's Meat Market was an early provider of meat and poultry to the community and also provided butchering services for the local farmers. F.L. Mixon, A.I. Gilstrap, and T.I. Murray established drugstores to serve the public. Both Mixon and Murray had similar establishments in Mercyville before moving to Elmer. Of course, many businesses provided goods and services to farmers and townspeople alike. Doctors Gooch and Newton established practices in Elmer to provide medical services. Dr. Gooch, known as Doc Gooch, opened his practice in 1899 and remained in Elmer until his death. He was an active supporter of the town and was very instrumental in the town's progress. He served beyond the boundaries of Elmer, too, as the Macon County Health Commissioner. Dr. Francis Newton, born in New York City, followed the migration west, finally settling in Elmer. He arrived around 1900 and later moved his practice to La Plata. The Elmer Exchange Bank was opened for operations by 1900 with capital stock of more than $10,000. John Serbeck was elected president and Alfred F. Smith was the cashier. The bank building was later used as Elmer's post office. As the town grew, many businesses were formed to provide services of convenience. Tommy Johnson opened Elmer's first barbershop in 1897 and was in operation until about 1930. Later, Sam Parker opened his shop and remained in business at the same location for more than 50 years. The Elmer stop on the Santa Fe Railroad made it easy for traveling business people to make the town a starting point for doing business in the surrounding area. This meant good patronage for Elmer's hotels. The Up-to-Date Hotel was run by Mrs. Vi Ward, and the Elmer Hotel was operated by Mrs. Myrtle Boyd, and later by John Rice. Andy Lean opened the first restaurant fruit market business in the city in 1902, but competition soon showed its face in the person of Ted Tate, who opened the Tate Tavern and Cafe. The Tate Tavern remained in business under the Tate family name for more than 70 years. The town also boasted its own newspaper called the Elmer Journal. The paper was founded in 1906 and continued publication until 1922, when a lack of subscribers forced its demise. The paper did, though, demonstrate Elmer's contribution to early gender equality by hiring a female editor, Mrs. Alpha Dean Moody, a position up to this time held almost exclusively by men. The appointment of Miss Moody as editor drew headlines in major papers in St. Louis and Kansas City. For entertainment, an opera house was constructed on the second floor of the building that was to house the mercantile store operated by Emmett Dale and J.C. Patterson. Traveling shows regularly performed there, and it became the primary meeting place for community-wide activities and gatherings. It was later used as a movie theater. Prior to the construction of the school gymnasium in 1953, the Opera House also was used by the school for plays and graduation ceremonies. Religion was also to play an active role in the community. In 1892, J.C. Patterson built the first church in the town and designated it the Universalist Church. William Gunnels was the first to be converted to the Universalist faith. Church membership grew rapidly, reaching 125 members by about 1910. But the church, for reasons unknown today, became inactive in the 1920s. In 1894, the Baptist Church was erected, and Emmett Dale was the first person to present himself for baptism. At the very first organized service, 45 souls presented themselves to be united with the church. The church remains active today in the original, although updated, structure. In 1907, the Elmer Christian Church was organized and utilized the Opera House for their services. Membership grew quickly, and it was decided that they needed their own church home. The structure was built in 1910 and still stands, with services continuing to this day. Membership at one time stood at 450 souls. A fourth church, the Assembly of God Church, was organized in 1925. This congregation also initially met in the Opera House for services, but a permanent church home was constructed in 1941. The congregation was disbanded some 40 years later, but the structure still stands. Perhaps the crowning achievement of this progressive and growing town was its school. Classes were probably held in Elmer late in the 1800s, but its notable history begins in 1904 when a magnificent school building was built. It was considered the premier school building in the county. At that time, the existing Elmer School and the Mercerville and Gunnels schools were combined to form the Elmer Consolidated School District No. 1, the first consolidated school district in the county. The curriculum offered classes through grade 10 at that time, but was extended to grade 12 sometime later. Another extraordinary achievement for the school district happened in 1953 when a gymnasium, shop, and upgraded cafeteria were added. Remarkably, this effort was completed using only donated funds and labor. The school operated continuously until about 1975, when a lack of enrollments sealed its demise. This presentation has offered a brief glimpse of Elmer's history during its first 30 years. Of course, there's much more to the story, and we'll explore that in the next episode of A Brief History of Elmer, Missouri.